I'm what you would call a rational thinking introvert. My name is Brad Hudson, and I'm 29 years old. I live in an apartment in Toronto, Canada. Ever since the start of this pandemic, I've stayed inside my apartment, and I leave only to buy groceries and pay the bills, doing my utmost best to keep my distance from other people. Not that I'm complaining. I do wear a mask and occasional visors if needed, but I was never the type who would get together and hang. I don't like going to clubs or bars, and parties were just for courtesy. I was more of a stay-at-home kind of person, and I was content with meeting people online, or just chatting with the ones I already knew. I work as a graphic designer, so most of my days are spent in front of the computer, which is fine since I can easily work and watch a couple of shows at the same time. This is my kind of ideal, and you're probably thinking that I'm the least interesting person in the world. I completely believed in that. But what I'm about to tell you is something that never happens to me, and, to be honest, I'm still trying to make sense of it to this day. It was a weekend, and I was pretty much done with my work, so I decided to watch a couple of Castlevania episodes on Netflix. At the same time, my Facebook Messenger was on in case my work would send me something, or just give me my weekly schedule. I was watching the episode where Trevor and Sypha meet the judge when I suddenly heard a ping sound on my computer. I looked at my screen and noticed there was a flashing message on my Facebook tab. I paused the Netflix player for a bit and clicked on the tab. You have one new message. That was what was flashing on my tab. I looked at the notification, and in less than 5 seconds, a message tab popped up. I looked at the header and saw a name that I did not recognize. Dawson Black. Who was Dawson Black? What kind of name was that? I could see that the user was typing something, so I wanted to see what they had to say. Hello, I'm Dawson Black. I was wondering if we could talk. Okay, Dawson Black seemed polite, but why was he messaging me? I typed back my reply. I apologize, but I don't normally talk to people who just send me a message online. I watched as he began to type back his reply. For some reason, this Dawson Black seemed to have a lot to say. I am a stranger and an admirer of your work. I would like to know more about you. Okay, we've established that he's a stranger, but an admirer of my work? Does he know what I do? I mean, I barely post anything on social media. Or rather, I hardly post anything I made. So, why was he saying he was an admirer of my work? Had he seen anything I made? I began to type back. What do you mean you're an admirer of my work? Have you seen what I do? Are you a client my company worked with? He began to type back. I was feeling a bit anxious, but at the same time I maintained my level of rationality. He could be a client the company worked with before, and maybe he wanted me to do a commission for him. He had finished typing, and I began to read his response. I am a big fan of your work. I have always found your work interesting, especially when you were still in community college. And even now, when you're just sitting at home reading this message. What the heck? I thought to myself as I got up from my seat. I began to stare at my computer screen. What the hell was he saying? Was he trying to throw me off or something? Freak me out? I crouched down, intent on telling him that it wasn't funny and I wanted him to stop. Before I could type back, I saw him type again. His additional reply came in. I can see how frightened you are. You even stood up from your seat, and that's your favorite blue seat too. For the first time, I felt the proverbial chill running down my spine as I looked over my shoulder towards my blue gaming chair. I had never invited anyone to my apartment, so it stands to reason they wouldn't know the color of my chair. More importantly, how did he know I just got up from the chair? Was he looking at me? I walked over to my windows and drew the curtains apart. I looked outside to see if there was someone looking straight at my apartment. I looked across the street, nothing. I looked across towards the building opposite me, nothing. I then heard a ping sound from the computer. Was it Dawson Black? Was he typing something to me? I closed the windows and drew the curtains closed and walked back to my desk. I looked at my screen and read the message, and I felt the hair rise on my arms and back. I couldn't believe what I was reading. You won't see me or find me, but I always see you. I'm always seeing you. There's no point in closing the windows or the curtains, shutting your doors or staying inside. I'm already inside. You let me in. I didn't know what to think. For the first time, I was genuinely frightened. I quickly logged off and called the police and informed them about what happened. They assured me that they will look into it, but for the time being, I had to make a note of every time Dawson Black messaged me. I did not want to make a note of the times he would message me, nor did I want to acknowledge I had seen his message. In fact, every time I logged on, I would be bombarded with messages from him. For the first time, I did feel safe in my own home. I didn't like the fact that I was being hounded by someone who said he was inside. What could he mean? Finally, I had gotten a call from the police's cybercrime division. They had tried tracking down Dawson Black based on the IP address I had given them. I was horrified to learn that they couldn't trace the source, and what's worse, when they checked on his profile, it never existed. There was no account with the name Dawson Black, it seemed. I didn't believe a word of it. What did they mean by that? If his account didn't exist and they couldn't find the source, then who was he? Why was he messaging me? I tried to think of a rational explanation, but the only thing on my mind was his message. You won't see me or find me, but I always see you. I'm always seeing you. There's no point in closing the windows or the curtains, shutting your doors or staying inside. I'm already inside. You let me in. Then it hit me. What if he was never there to begin with? What if he really was here? What if I really let him in? I have since transferred apartments and made a new account. I still work from home from time to time, but this time I have a roommate. I met him at work and I have the same interests. It's nice having a roommate, and ever since I haven't heard from Dawson Black. I began to think that it was all just a really bad dream. A message pinged and I answered it. It was my roommate. I read it, wondering if he needed me to get anything. I hope you're adjusted. I made sure that this place is safe for you. I'm glad you let me in. I'm an admirer of your work.